Because there is no good time to talk about.
Prince Andrew did something no one saw coming. He read the Queen's secret will in front of the whole royal family. What he revealed left everyone frozen. A royal estate was split, an old sword was passed down, and one name caused silence. Let's break down the will that changed everything.
As the world's second longest reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II left an indelible legacy. A new book features the final words from the late Queen's diary.
The room was quiet, too quiet. Every royal family member sat in silence. No one smiled. No one moved much. Most thought King Charles would open the Queen's will. Others guessed Princess Anne, but it was Prince Andrew who stood up. That alone shocked the room. He walked over with the sealed envelope in his hand. His fingers touched the wax. For a second he froze, then he broke it open. The crack was small, but it felt loud. Heads turned, eyes locked on him. Charles looked stiff, his hands were tight. Anne didn't show much, but her fingers tapped the chair. William sat still, but you could see the tension. Harry sat quietly, eyes sharp. Andrew opened the paper. His hands shook just a bit. He took a deep breath. Then he read, "This is my last will and testament." The words hung in the air. No one spoke. The Queen's voice was back in the room, even though she was gone. Everyone leaned in. This wasn't just about money or things. It was about power, legacy, and truth.
So-called soft diplomatic power of the royal family and choosing the EU's third largest economy.
Andrew kept reading the will. At first, nothing was strange. Charles got Windsor Castle. That made sense. He had waited his whole life for this. He stayed quiet, but his face looked tight. Then came Princess Anne. The Queen thanked her for being loyal. She had always worked hard. Anne gave a small nod, no shock there. But then everything changed. Balmoral was not given to just one person. It was left to the whole family. The room froze. That had never happened before. Royal homes usually go to one heir. It's how the system works. This was different. Balmoral was the Queen's favorite place. It was private. It was peaceful. She had spent many happy days there. And now she wanted all of them to have it. Together, it was more than a gift. It was a message. She wanted the family to stay close, even after she was gone. She didn't want more fights. She wanted peace. Some looked confused. Some looked upset. No one said a word, but you could feel the tension grow. The Queen had changed a big rule, and not everyone liked it. Still, this was just the start, because what Andrew read next made people sit up straight, clench their teeth, and hold their breath.
William, okay, people are obviously incredibly curious about you. So let's start with the obvious. William, where did you propose? When, how, and Kate, what did you say?
Andrew turned the page and said the next name out loud. It was Catherine. The room stayed quiet, but every eye turned to her. The Queen had left her something special, the Vladimir tiara. This was not just any crown, it was one of the most expensive and famous royal jewels. The tiara had been passed down for many years. Queens before her had worn it. Now it was hers. Catherine didn't show much emotion, but her eyes moved slightly. She understood what this meant. The gift was more than a nice crown. It was a message. The Queen trusted her. She believed Catherine could carry the royal family forward. She had watched her for years. Catherine had always followed the rules. She kept calm in hard times. She never caused drama. Now she was being rewarded in the most royal way. Some people in the room were surprised. Others looked at her with respect. The Queen had made it clear Catherine was the future. This gift wasn't loud or flashy, it was quiet, soft, and full of meaning. The tiara wasn't just pretty, it showed trust, hope, and honor. But before anyone could speak, Andrew looked back at the page. The next name made everyone stop and stare. No one expected it, not even him.
Things escalated as Prince Harry left a London courtroom on April 9th. As the royal was being escorted out before break in day 2 of an appeal hearing pertaining to his UK security.
Andrew kept reading. The next name was Harry. The room froze. No one expected him to be included. He had stepped away from the royal family. He had spoken out in public. Many thought the Queen would leave him out, but she didn't. She left him a silver box. It once belonged to King George VI, her father. This box held old letters full of history and royal meaning. It wasn't just an object. It was something personal and full of power. People looked around confused. Was this a gift of peace? Or was it a quiet reminder of what he gave up? No one could tell. The meaning wasn't clear. William sat still, but his jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists. He had stayed loyal. He had done everything asked of him. Now, Harry was getting something so special? Charles didn't look happy either. His face stayed calm, but his fingers tapped the chair. Everyone could feel the tension rise. It wasn't just about the box. It was about what it meant. Some saw it as kindness, others saw it as a warning. Either way, the Queen had made a bold choice. But the will wasn't over yet. Just when they thought the surprises were done, Andrew turned another page, and what he read next changed everything again. Andrew read the next names, Anne and Edward. The room stayed silent, but people leaned in. Princess Anne was given Sandringham. That was a big surprise. Sandringham was one of the Queen's favorite places. The royal family spent every Christmas there. It was full of memories and tradition. Anne didn't react much. She never did, but this gift said a lot. The Queen trusted her. She saw her as strong, loyal, and steady. Anne had worked hard her whole life without asking for attention. Now she was being honored in a big way. Next was Prince Edward. He was given Bagshot Park. That made sense to some. Edward had always stayed in the background, never causing drama, but there was more. Along with the estate, the Queen wrote that she hoped he would keep doing his quiet but important work. It was a push, a sign that she wanted him to take on more. Both Anne and Edward had stayed loyal. They didn't seek the spotlight, but they had always been there. The Queen noticed, and now she was thanking them with more than just words. But even with these big surprises, the will wasn't finished. Andrew looked down again. What came next was even more shocking. Andrew looked down and read Harry's name again. The room tensed up. This time, the Queen had given him something even more shocking: the ceremonial sword of King George. The ceremonial sword of King George VI. This wasn't just an old item. It was a symbol of duty, strength, and royal power. It had belonged to a king, and now it was Harry's. People didn't know what to think. Harry had stepped away from the family. He gave up royal life. Why would the Queen give him something so important? William clenched his fists. He tried to stay calm, but his face gave him away. He had done everything right. He had stayed loyal, and yet Harry was being honored again. Charles didn't speak, but his anger showed. His jaw was tight. His fingers tapped hard on the armrest. The room felt different now. The air was heavy. This gift changed everything. It wasn't just a sword, it was a message. Some thought it was peace, others thought it was guilt. No one knew for sure, but everyone felt it. The Queen had made her choice, and people were left wondering why. But she wasn't done yet. Because the next part of the will wasn't for the adults, it was for the future kings. Andrew turned the page and began to read the next part. This time it was about the Queen's great-grandchildren. First came Prince George and Princess Charlotte. The Queen had left them family treasures, but these were more than just valuable items. Along with them came knowledge and lessons she had learned over her long life. It wasn't about riches, it was about what those treasures stood for: duty, respect, and the weight of the crown. She wanted them to know their roles early. She wanted them to understand what it meant to carry the family legacy. It was a quiet way of saying, your time will come and you must be ready. Then came something softer, a letter for little Prince Louis, written by hand. It wasn't long, but it was personal, full of warmth and guidance, words just for him to read when he was older. The Queen had thought of everything, not just for now, but for years to come. She didn't just hand out gifts, she planted seeds. This part of the will showed how deeply she cared about the future. Even the youngest were not forgotten. And as Andrew finished reading this part, the room stayed still, because the next name would take the emotions even higher. Andrew read slowly now. The next part was personal. The Queen had left something just for Charles, her private writings, letters, diaries, and thoughts never shared with anyone. These were not for the public, they were not for history books, they were for him alone. It was quiet in the room. This gift wasn't about power, it wasn't land or jewels, it was deeper. These writings held her fears, hopes, regrets, and dreams. A lifetime of feelings put on paper. It was a message only a son could understand, not orders, but reflections. protection, not control, but trust. Charles looked down, holding back emotion. The Queen had given him something no one else got. It came with no clear path, just the weight of everything she had carried. Then Andrew looked up and read the final line. There is one last part of the will. The room froze. It was not about things. It was a final message, a quiet call for unity, for peace, for healing. The Queen asked them to stay together, to forgive, to move forward. It was a challenge and a choice. Charles sat heavy with that truth. Anne stayed calm. William looked at his children. Catherine understood what was coming. Harry was still part of the story. Everyone walked out of that room different. The Queen's voice still echoed. The Queen's will wasn't just about gifts. It shook the throne, exposed hidden truths, and left behind a challenge. What happens next could change everything. Want more untold royal secrets and drama? Watch our next video right here. You won't believe what's still hidden behind palace walls.